Welcome to the 1 Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into Michael E. Gerber's Awakening the Entrepreneur Within, how ordinary people can create extraordinary companies 1 hour guide.
Yeah, and this one, it's not quite your typical business how-to, is it? Gerber really digs into what it means, like really means to be an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
He argues it's less about a specific skill set, more about unlocking something that's, well, inside pretty much everyone.
Exactly, and he introduces this concept, this really powerful idea of the dreaming room,
Right, the dreaming room.
which, it could be a literal space or maybe just a mental space, a mindset.
A place to tap into what you really want.
Yes, and envision a business that actually aligns with who you are, like at your core.
So our aim today, for you listening, is to sort of go beyond just a summary.
Right.
We want to explore each part of Gerber's guide, pull out the key insights, the practical stuff.
Yeah, lessons for anyone, whether you're, actively sketching out a startup or maybe just curious about thinking more entrepreneurially.
And just a reminder, we are focusing on awakening the entrepreneur within, how ordinary people can create extraordinary companies 1 hour guide, which is part of the 1 hour guide by Anil Nathu series.
Okay, let's get into it. Part one, the preparation. This section, it really lays the groundwork. It's all about the emotional, the psychological shifts.
The conceptual stuff too.
Exactly. Before you even start thinking about like spreadsheets and marketing plans, it's got 3 chapters.
And the first one, chapter 1, is titled "A Conversation with My Mother Leads to the Dreaming Room." This is where Gerber gets quite personal.
Yeah.
He talks about feeling a bit lost, even though he'd had some success. And this chat with his mother, who was 96,
Incredible.
it becomes this real turning point for him.
It's quite touching, actually. She basically reminds him about his own creative spark, that, youthful imagination he had.
Yeah, telling him to reconnect with that.
And right out of that very human moment, that's where the dreaming room idea comes from. A space, like we said, physical or mental, just to freely explore your deepest hopes and visions.
And what's key here, I think, is that he's not just saying, okay, brainstorm some ideas.
No, it's deeper.
It's about real honesty, vulnerability with yourself.
Yeah.
Getting back to that imaginative core that, let's face it, often gets buried under just daily life.
Very true. Then we hit chapter 2, the 5 realities of the entrepreneur.
Mm.
And these realities, they're pretty interesting. They kind of push back against some common ideas about entrepreneurship.
I really do. Reality number 1. An entrepreneur is fundamentally an inventor.
An inventor.
Yeah, but not just of, like, a gadget. An inventor of the business itself. The entire model, the whole thing is seen as a unique creation from their imagination.
Okay, like Airbnb, maybe. They didn't just build more hotels. They invented a whole new system for finding places to stay.
That's a perfect example. Yeah. And reality, too, kind of flows from that. True entrepreneurs create opportunities. They don't just buy into existing ones.
Which contrasts with, say, buying a franchise where the playbook is already written.
Exactly. Gerber really values that spark, that original creation.
Makes sense.
Reality 3 is that this invention, this creativity, it's contagious.
How so?
Well, when someone creates something truly new and exciting, it just naturally grabs attention, draws people in. Think about the early Apple days.
Oh yeah, the buzz.
That excitement, the audience enthusiasm, it actually fuels the entrepreneur.
Okay. Reality 4 connects growth directly to success. Almost like if you're not growing, you're not really vital.
That seems to be his view, yeah. An entrepreneurial venture, for Gerber, is constantly evolving, expanding. Stagnation is almost like the opposite of entrepreneurship.
And the 5th reality, this one feels really important. It's that everyone has the potential. Everyone can be an entrepreneur.
Yes. Creativity isn't some rare gift for a chosen few. It's like a muscle. You work it, it gets stronger. Practice.
So the big takeaway from these 5 realities, entrepreneurship is really about creative innovation, being original, driving growth. And crucially, it's something inside all of us. Just needs awakening.
Which leads nicely into the last chapter of part 1, chapter 3, the 4 dimensions of the entrepreneurial personality.
Yes, the 4 dimensions.
This is a really neat framework. Gerber suggests that inside every entrepreneur, these 4 aspects exist kind of all at the same time.
The dreamer, the thinker, the storyteller, and the leader. That's right, isn't it?
That's it.
And it's interesting, he says they're not really sequential steps, are they? More like different modes within us that need to be activated and working together.
Precisely. So the dreamer, that's your visionary side. The one asking, what if? conjuring up that big picture for the future.
Okay.
Then you've got the thinker, that's the strategist, the logical one figuring out the how. How do we actually make this dream real?
The nuts and bolts.
Yeah. And the storyteller, that's vital too. Articulating the dream, communicating it so it captures people, inspires them. You need that to bring others along.
Customers, investors, employees.
Right. And finally, the leader, the one who actually takes charge of execution, inspires the team, mobilizes everyone towards that mission.
You could look at someone like maybe Elon Musk. You see the dreamer in the huge visions for Mars or electric cars,
Definitely.
the thinker in the complex engineering, the storyteller in how he paints this future, and the leader in, well, making it happen, driving it forward.
Exactly. And Gerber's point is, for a business to really last, to be sustainable, the entrepreneur needs to consciously tap into and harmonize all four.
Can't just be a dreamer.
Nope. Need the thinking, the storytelling, the leadership too.
Okay, that wraps up part 1. Ready for part 2?
Let's do it. Part 2 is of the dreamer and the dream. This part zooms in on that initial spark, the actual awakening and forming of the core dream. Gerber sees this as like the most essential foundational stage, 7 chapters here.
All right, starting with chapter 1, simply called The Awakening. Gerber shares another personal story here from back in 1975. He talks about, kind of unexpectedly, advising a business owner and suddenly realizing he had this intuition, this understanding of business he hadn't really recognized before.
Yeah. He describes that moment as really intense, like a sudden flash of knowing, almost a physical joy that came with seeing this potential he didn't know he had.
The dreamer waking up.
Exactly. Seeing possibilities everywhere, asking bolder questions.
Then chapter 2 explores the realization, that moment where the new path doesn't just seem like an option, it feels inevitable.
Right. And he talks about a second awakening he had much later at 69, reinforcing that idea that, look, it's never too late.
That's powerful. So it's a dual thing.
Yeah.
Realizing you could do more and realizing you still have time to do it.
That's a huge motivator, isn't it?
Absolutely. But then comes chapter 3, the negative reaction. I think this one hits home for a lot of people. That immediate fear, the self-doubt that creeps in as soon as a big dream starts looking real and threatens, your current comfort zone.
Gerber even admits he felt it himself right after that first client interaction back in 75, questioning if he could really do it.
So the message is that fear, that doubt, it's normal.
It's part of the process. It doesn't mean the dream's bad. It probably means it's significant. It matters.
Good point. Chapter 4 moves to the personal dream. This is about the initial driver, right? Rooted in your own life, your own hopes for something better, career, life, sense of self.
Yeah, it's very subjective at this stage, intensely personal, but that's where its power comes from initially.
But then, in chapter 5, it evolves. It becomes the impersonal dream.
This is a key shift, moving beyond just your desires to a broader purpose. A mission that serves others makes an impact.
The focus changes from what's in it for me to what difference can this make?
Exactly. And Gerber argues this is where a business starts to gain real substance, real meaning. It becomes more than just a job. It's a vehicle for something bigger.
Okay, chapter 6, the sudden shock. What's this about?
This is the reality check moment. You have the dream, maybe the purpose is forming, and then bam, you confront just how big the task is.
The gap between the vision and actually doing it?
Yes. Realizing dreaming isn't enough. You need action, time, learning, probably significant change. It's daunting.
And this shock, it tests things. Tests the dream's authenticity, tests your resolve.
For sure. It deepens your commitment if you push through it.
And that leads to the final chapter of part 2, chapter 7. The dream is born.
This is it. The moment the dream stops being just an idea in your head and starts to feel solid. It has shape, weight.
You cross the threshold from internal thinking to external doing.
Yeah, the very first steps of creating something real in the world. This, for Gerber, is the true start of the entrepreneurial journey itself.
Okay, so the dream is born. Now what? We move to part 3, the thinker and the vision.
Exactly. Now the focus shifts. We move from the inspirational realm of the dreamer to the more analytical world of the thinker.
Time to get practical.
Right. The dream needs examining, refining. You need to build a clear, actionable vision. 5 chapters in this part.
Chapter 1 kicks off with a pretty direct title, Taking the Dream Apart.
Yep. Time to step back from the initial buzz, the excitement, and really engage analytically.
Asking the tough questions.
What specific problem are we solving here? Who exactly is our audience? How will this thing actually work?
It's the thinker bringing that logical scrutiny,
Mm-hmm.
breaking the dream down into its pieces to see what it's really made of.
And Gerber says you can't just do it once. Chapter 2 is taking the dream apart again.
Deeper analysis.
Yeah, iterative. Digging down to uncover limitations, risks you didn't see at first, assumptions you are making without realizing it.
So constantly poking holes in it in a constructive way.
Kind of. Sharpening the vision by asking really pointed questions. How will we deliver this? What's the customer experience really like? What systems do we absolutely need? The thinker's job is to fill those gaps, build a strong foundation.
Makes sense. Then, chapter 3, the vision begins to take form. This sounds like where things start coming together.
It is. It's the alignment. The dreamer's passion meets the thinker's structure. The vision emerges now as a more detailed picture of the dream in the real world.
So like the company's function, its purpose, the customer journey, the core values.
All getting clearer. It starts to feel like a blueprint, something inspiring, but also crucially doable.
And chapter 4, the vision continues to take form, suggests this isn't a one-off task either.
Right. It's ongoing refinement, constantly solidifying how the meaning, the method, and the market fit together, always asking, what makes this different? What's truly original here?
Thinking about the customer, the company's story, its impact.
Exactly. Refining it ensures it's unique and that it actually resonates with people.
Okay, final chapter of part 3. Chapter 5, coming to grips with the business model. This sounds critical.
Absolutely. This is where the vision gets translated into a practical, sustainable structure.
The brass tacks.
Pretty much. The economics, how do we make money? Pricing, costs. The functional structure, how does the work get done? Delivery, operations. And the organizational structure, who does what? Roles, management.
So facing the real-world limits. Cost, pricing, scaling, profits.
Yeah. Designing systems, setting metrics, outlining roles, but crucially, ensuring the model serves the dream, not the other way around. It has to bridge purpose and profit, vision and execution.
Okay, so we have a dream, a vision, potential model. Now, part 4, the storyteller and the purpose.
Now it's about breathing life into that vision through story and really nailing down that deeper underlying purpose. 3 chapters here.
Chapter 1 is defining purpose to capture your imagination. Sounds fundamental.
It really is. Gerber stresses how vital a clear purpose is. It gives the business its soul, its focus.
More than just goals or targets.
Much more. It's the core why. Why does this business exist? It needs to be something timeless, something that inspires you and everyone who hears about it. This is the raw material for the storyteller.
Making the dream feel necessary, not just nice.
Exactly. A compelling purpose provides that emotional weight, that direction. Then chapter 2 is pursuing your story.
Time to actually tell it.
Yep. Step into the storyteller role. Give voice to the dream, the vision, the purpose, and not just once tell it to everyone, constantly. It's part of creating it, testing it.
Like a performance.
In a way, it needs authenticity, clarity, passion. You're not just explaining what you do, but why it matters.
Communicating the essence, getting buy-in.
Right. And chapter 3, and the story grows from within, talks about how that story starts to take on its own momentum.
How do you mean?
Well, an authentic story begins to shape decisions. It attracts people, employees, customers who believe in it. The business becomes this living narrative that evolves.
People buy the story, not just the product.
Increasingly, yes. They want to know what you stand for. And that story becomes a guidepost, giving clarity when things get tough or uncertain.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us to the final part, part 5. The leader and the mission.
This is the action phase, execution. Bringing it all together to fulfill the mission. And it's the longest part, 9 chapters.
Kicking off with chapter 1, the leader.
Right. The leader emerges now as the one who's accountable. The buck stops here, basically. They have to translate everything dream, vision, story, purpose into reality.
So the leader integrates the other dimensions. Dreamer, thinker, storyteller.
That's the idea. They embody all of them. And leadership here isn't about control. It's about commitment, making the intangible tangible, rallying people.
Got it. Chapter 2 is the leader goes to work.
Pretty straightforward. Time to move beyond ideas and into operations, making decisions, handling responsibilities, building the actual thing.
Intentional effort aligned with the mission.
Yes, organizing things, defining tasks, shaping the structure. Work becomes meaningful when it's guided by that bigger vision.
Chapter 3 talks about the wisdom of process. Why is process so important?
Because it's how you make things repeatable, scalable, consistent. It's the engine that turns dreams into reliable results.
Ensures quality, allows for growth.
Yeah, exactly. Gerber emphasizes designing processes for the future of the business, not just for today.
Smart. Chapter 4. Beginning the strategy, beginning the plan.
Now you formalize it. Create that strategic framework, linking the vision and purpose to concrete actions. Strategy connects the story to the structure.
And planning.
It's the living blueprint, how you track progress, measure if you're still aligned with the big picture.
Okay. Chapter 5. The mission is underway. Things are actually happening now.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road. Hiring people, serving customers, systems are running, it's go time.
And the leader's role here is vigilance, making sure daily actions match the mission.
Constant vigilance, keeping things on track. But then, Chapter 6 suggests something interesting. The mission reveals itself.
Meaning it can change.
It can evolve, deepen.
Yeah.
As you operate, interact with the world, get feedback, you might gain new insights. The mission might expand or shift slightly.
So you need to be open to that.
Absolutely. Practical experience can really enrich the mission.
Chapter 7 is called We Suddenly Understand. Sounds like an epiphany moment.
It is that moment of clarity where all the pieces just click together emotionally. You see how the dream, the struggles, the work, it all led to this.
The business feels like you, an embodiment of your true self, your contribution.
Yeah, seeing it not just as a company, but maybe even a cultural or spiritual contribution, it's profound.
Then Chapter 8, the mission is being realized. This is confirmation time.
Right. You see it working. Systems are effective, people are engaged, customers are happy. The business is having the impact you intended, both economically and emotionally.
And maybe thinking about the future. Legacy.
Starting to think about perpetuation, succession, keeping the mission alive long term.
Okay, and the final chapter, Chapter 9. The revelation of the Golden Pyramid. What's this?
It's Gerber's symbolic model to kind of tie it all together. It unites the inspiration, the dreamer, with the execution, the leader.
How does it look?
Imagine a pyramid. Principles and processes form the base. The dream is at the very peak. And in between, you have the layers. People, purpose, story. The leader is the energy holding it all together.
So a successful business is like this integrated structure built for meaning.
That's the vision, a holistic view of the whole journey.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Michael E. Gerber's Awakening the Entrepreneur Within, part of the 1-Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. It's clear this is much more than just a business startup manual.
Oh, definitely. It's a deep look at the internal journey, from that first flicker of a dream all the way through building the vision, crafting the story, and finally, leading the mission.
Every part is connected, essential. Preparing your mindset, dreaming big, thinking strategically, telling the story, leading the action.
It really drives home that idea. The extraordinary company starts with that awakening within.
It really does underscore that entrepreneurship is an inside-out process. And as this deep dive, drawing from the 1-Hour Guide by Anil Nathu, hopefully shows, it's a path worth understanding on a deeper level.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you for joining us today. Buy the book at the 1-Hour Guide website for more business insights. And maybe a final thought for you. Which of those 4 dimensions, dreamer, thinker, storyteller, leader, feels most active in you right now? And how could you maybe activate the others a bit more this week?